Hi everyone, Alan Schimmel, DevOps.com, DevOps TV, and we're here at IBM Think 2018 Day 3 in Las Vegas. And we're joined by one of our favorite people at IBM, none other than Sanjeev Sharma, author of the DevOps Playbook,
Absolutely.
DevOps for Dummies. And what's your title these days? It used to be CTO for DevOps.
Yes,
but now,
yes. So for the last 4 years, I was CTO for DevOps Adoption, which was
Right.
a client-facing role at IBM. Right now, my role has expanded. I am the leader of what's called the Cloud Architecture Guild within one of
okay.
our solutioning hubs. So I'm responsible for the
Excellent.
entire cloud portfolio.
Oh, that's fantastic. And certainly here at IBM Think this year, Sanjeev, it's all about cloud.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Cloud private, private cloud, all
Public cloud. Yeah.
all public cloud, it's kind of like bubble gum shrimp, cloud this, cloud that, every cloud we can imagine. But what's interesting, and we've had a chance over the last 2 days to speak to multiple IBMers, customers, business partners who are involved in cloud offerings or using cloud offerings through IBM, and it appears that like what was a standalone DevOps sort of practice has become sort of built in part of the cloud
Sure.
services. It's almost like they're assuming a DevOps pattern there.
Absolutely. I mean, to me, that should be the end goal, right?
Yeah.
DevOps shouldn't be something you do separately. DevOps is something that you do as a part of doing what you do.
Yes.
And I know that sounds kind of redundant, but no company is there unless you're a DevOps services provider or a DevOps consultant.
Yes.
Your job shouldn't be to do DevOps. Your job, as if I'm a software delivery organization within a company, is to deliver software and get business value for that company when the customers and the clients and the users use that software.
Right.
Right? How I deliver it and how I make it more efficient and more effective and improve upon it, those techniques are what we call DevOps, right?
DevOps.
So there shouldn't be a separate need to have a separate practice within DevOps, although there might be people within an organization whose focus is to help that organization adopt and practice DevOps.
I mean, DevOps is just part of the way we get things done, but it's surely a means to an ends. It's not an ends by and in of itself.
Exactly.
And that's
none of the
where we're
software
seeing-
delivery practices should be, or methodology should be like.
And you're right, that is the way it should be, and I think that speaks to a maturation. I mean, IBM was an early proponent of DevOps.
Sure.
You were one of the leaders of the IBM DevOps as well as the larger DevOps community. So we are seeing this maturation, but we're seeing a couple of other things too. We're seeing microservices. Obviously, AI seems to be trying to be embedded into every
Sure.
aspect of what IBM is doing. You and I were talking off camera. There is heavy use of Kubernetes and containerized infrastructure, but it's really kind of, look, IBM's mantra seems to be wherever you are, we'll be there. You want to be on your own premises, on your own data center, in your own private cloud, great. You want to be on bare metal, great. You want to be on a Kubernetes container microservices architecture, great. You want to be in public cloud, that's fine too, we'll do that. So you're not, or not you personally, but IBM is not dictating where we think your applications or your data should live.
Sure.
Correct?
So I think one has to have the realization, like we do, that if one is in a large enterprise, the enterprise is not monolithic, it's not homogeneous.
Right.
There are going to be several teams, several projects, several workloads and applications which are at different maturity level in their life cycle. Not only that, the business they are supporting, they might be at a different life cycle with the business itself. So if I have I called it legacy application with a client recently, and they're like, no, we don't have legacy. It's a heritage application.
Okay.
So if you have
That's new. I haven't
that's
heard
a new
that
one.
yet.
So I had to say it, right?
Yes.
It's just a new one. So their heritage application, if it is at the later end of its life cycle, right, and it's going to go away, or it's going to be retired or decommissioned, do I want to invest in moving it?
Right.
Maybe I do, because my infrastructure maybe goes away. I can move it, but it's more of a lift and shift, right? Where I lift it off of my own data center and move it to a cloud, whether it's a public cloud or it's a private cloud in my own data center, if I need to move it off the hardware it's on and virtualize it and place it somewhere else, absolutely, but it's a lift and shift because I don't want to invest or cannot justify or need to justify the investment to refactor it.
So
other applications which are very early in their stage and have a long life cycle to live and they are the core bread and butter, those should be gradually made what we call cloud native, right, where they are based on microservices, and once you get to that stage, you can run parts of it or all of it over time in containers. As of today, that is today the most effective and efficient way to run services in the cloud, right? Futures might be functions, it used to be VMs, but not as of today, containers is the new normal.
It is. What's old is new again. But let me ask you a question on that, because you brought up the issue of VMs. When I first started delving into, let's say, when Docker became popular, people, I think, were talking about containers as a VM substitute, as it would kill the VM, basically. It would replace the VM. And then, as I delved more into it and I spoke to more people who are actually deploying a containerized infrastructure, I came to realize that no, the containers could actually run on top of the VMs. And that might become the preferred or best practices way of doing it. And now we see a little bit of a shift back where people are perhaps running, containerized infrastructure on bare metal without a VM even. We get into serverless computing and all these other things. Where do you think this goes, Sanjeev?
So I think all of those have valid use cases and valid applications. At the end of the day, it's a question of what you want to achieve. But let me first address your point on VM. Container is another VM, right? Container will behave like no different than a VM if the application running in it has not been architected to leverage the value and the services, the elasticity, the scalability, the self-healing, all the fun stuff that containers bring.
Do.
If I just take an application in a VM and say I'm going to put it in a container, containerize it, and run it.
You didn't gain anything.
I'm gaining something in the sense that the VM is also a container in a way, right? Is that this new container, the Docker container, is much more lightweight than my other traditional heritage virtual machine, right? Because
they're not legacies.
The operating system is not there. Very few libraries or the OS are there. The tax I'm paying is lower. But to get true value, I have to break my application into smaller components which can scale horizontally independently of each other, which can be developed and delivered independently of each other. So the DevOps deliverable does not need to be then integrated into this large application and delivered as a whole. I can be delivering each container or set of containers representing a service as a whole.
Got it.
Right, and Kubernetes does a great job with that, right? It is the most effective. Again, time statement, 2 years from now, who knows what we'll have. As of today, it really helps you doing that, and doing that very effectively.
Now, so earlier we were speaking with some of our friends from SkyTap.
Oh, okay.
Big IBM partner.
Good friends of ours, yeah.
Yep, and that's their whole business model, right? Is taking applications that weren't originally architected for cloud, and what do you call it? Lift and shifting them not to become cloud native, because the SkyTap cloud itself is made to make it easy. Is the word cloud wash, cloudify? I don't know what the word is.
Cloud enable.
Whatever
you want to call it.
Yeah. But I asked, is that just a way station on the road to the next stop?
Very good question, and I think it all depends upon where in the cloud journey that set of applications is, right? If you think of SkyTap, one way of oversimplifying it is that it's just a container and you can run your entire data center in that container.
Yeah.
Right, and it's running on the cloud now. The question then again becomes, where is that application in its business life cycle? Shall I just leave it there? And now I've gotten it off of where it was in my data center and I can run it in the cloud. I can leverage some cloud capabilities. Or is my goal for that application to evolve into cloud native, because that's my strategic value? Maybe it is a part of that application which evolves into cloud native.
Part of it doesn't.
Part of it doesn't, right? And that's to me, the next evolution. You must have heard of this thing called the strangler pattern, right? Where you take an application and then chip away at pieces. Well, the original thought of the strangler pattern was that it all has to go away and become new. What we are seeing more and more enterprises do is that no, all of it doesn't need to go away. My entire application was made up of several components, some of which I'm willing to invest in because they can be made cloud native, and some just because of maybe the way they access data. Usually that's the biggest stumbling block. And the way or the code has some business rules which I don't want to touch because there's no value in breaking it into microservices. There is a core component which might remain where it is, right? But I do want to maybe upgrade it to a more modern operating system and more modern middleware, and that might be the journey out of the legacy, so to speak. So I think it is one of the on-ramps onto the cloud, and whether it becomes the landing spot for that application or part of the application or a waypoint along the way, that depends on your roadmap.
Well, and there's another aspect to it, and it's not unique to IBM, but it's really, it really goes to the core of the IBM business, and that is you have all of these, systems of engagement, mainframe applications that, frankly, you're not going to move to the cloud. The cloud's not going to do a better job. These things, they work pretty well where they are. There are parts of the application where maybe we want to get closer to the ultimate end user, a UI.
Sure.
Perfect example. So we could move the UI, the front end, if you will, to a way station or to a cloud or whatever you want to call it. But the data still resides back.
Sure. Very common scenario.
Right, and and there are parts of that application analysis and so forth that really you don't want to move it to the cloud just because you can. It just doesn't make sense, and it never, for the foreseeable future anyway.
Sure.
It never will.
Well, we've been saying the mainframe is dead for 26, 27 years now, and it's well and alive, and we had a new release last year, which was very successful. So absolutely. And I think when I talk to clients about this, I say, first of all, you have to stop looking at your application as an application. You have to look at what business services, what business functions is that application providing,
right,
and decide based on where your data will continue to live, where you might have some latency requirements, where you can expose to the public cloud, right, where your internal compliance and regulatory requirements allow you to move to the public cloud, what parts of the data, because some parts will need to move if you go to the cloud. And then you decide at a business function by business function level. Note, it's a business conversation,
right,
not a technology conversation. Just because this is a service today doesn't mean it should be a service and move to the cloud as a whole. There's
another business analysis that needs to take place, and that is, what was the investment here?
Exactly.
Right? If I've invested literally millions of dollars into this application running on this platform, just because I can move it there doesn't mean I should move it there.
Absolutely.
Right? May I or can I? Right? And
should I is the question. Right? Why? I mean, whenever somebody says we're on a journey to the cloud, my first question always is, what are your business drivers?
Right. And
why are you making that investment? Because it's tough investment, and it's not just an investment in technology. It's an investment in your organization to become cloud enabled.
Yes.
The operational readiness,
in your people, in your whole thing.
You have to redo your organization, you have to redo your culture, you have to redo your processes, you have to redo your governance.
And
this is not easy.
It's not easy. But here's the flip side. Unfortunately or fortunately, in the technology space anyway, in the IT space, we have shiny trinket syndrome. No one wants to raise their hand. Like, how many people do you get raising their hand saying, I do waterfall? Right? I want to keep doing waterfall. I'm not changing.
The smart ones will do that, right? Because they will realize that there's a certain...
Because it makes sense for what they're doing here.
Just yesterday I was meeting with a client. They're a large healthcare insurance provider, and they said there are certain back-end systems which they do not need to update more than twice a year.
And why
Waterfall
should
is perfectly fine for them.
Yeah.
My counter-argument to them is, yes, stay with waterfall, but introduce certain DevOps practices so that if, let's say, tomorrow you have a defect in the field or an outage, how quickly can you recreate it?
Right.
And if you're still using legacy systems with legacy processes, if it takes thank you, if it takes you 6 weeks to recreate your production environment in QA to recreate the defect,
That's
you
a
have
loser.
a big problem.
Yeah, that's a loser.
Right? So just because your process stays waterfall doesn't mean some of the DevOps practices do not apply to you.
And that, look, we forget DevOps for a minute. Let's look at Agile. Agile is probably about 20 years old now.
Of course, something like that, yeah.
How many organizations really practice waterfall scrum ops,
Yep.
right? Or water scrum fall,
Water
or
scrum
whatever
fall,
you want to
yeah.
call it. Because I think that smart businesses cherry pick what works for them, but they don't throw out the babies with bathwater,
and the
for the most part.
And the challenge we see is making those decisions based on cultural inertia, making those decisions based on somebody's pet project,
Yeah.
making those decisions based on the shiny object syndrome.
Yeah.
They are not intelligent decisions, right? And we see that all the time. And the decisions need to be based.
We do. We see mistakes made all the time, and we have a history of that in this. Let me pivot a little bit and talk about Think.
Sure.
So it's a new show,
Yep.
but an old show.
Several
built
old
on-
shows put
right,
together
built
in a
on-
new format.
Yeah. Many people in our audience didn't have the opportunity to come out. What, for you, if you can, either the top thing or the top three things, highlights of Think for you so far?
I think amongst the highlights, right, first of it is IBM is now full and center a cloud and cognitive company, right? I mean, there's, as you said, machine learning, AI is in everything, right?
Yep.
And that has been our mantra, that has been a key differentiator. So that's number one. And we've been saying the message for several years, but now you're actually seeing results in the field.
Yep.
We actually have customers coming on stage and saying, we did this and we used predictive analytics, or we used machine learning, or we used AI-assisted decision making to do, and we are able to achieve X, right? They're seeing the results. So I think we've proven our leadership in the market.
Okay.
Secondly is, I think, the maturation, as you said, of our cloud itself. Right now we have a Kubernetes-based container service in the public cloud, and a Kubernetes-based cloud private offering in the private cloud that gives seamlessness, or at least continuity between on-prem and off-prem. So our message that we will be a hybrid cloud company has truly come true. Right, and it's not just true for that. We have our VMware on cloud offering, which came out a couple of years ago. You know, and that mirrors a customer's VMware on-prem. Right, so I think we are seeing that more and more across our portfolio, that we are truly a hybrid company, and our API technologies are already helped.
It's multi-cloud.
Well, multi-cloud, if we go by the true definition, would mean that we support multiple cloud vendors, right? Which will be the next step.
So I meant platforms, but yes.
So that's hybrid cloud. Again, terminology, you know, is
heritage, legacy, whatever.
Right, and I think the third one was just hearing our customers talking about what they've been able to achieve, right? From all aspects of IBM. What is exciting about Think is we are not just looking at one part of IBM. We are really looking at all of IBM. Right? We're looking at storage, we're looking at infrastructure, we're looking at analytics, we're looking at security, we're looking at cloud. And that was an opportunity I personally would have had to go to 3 different conferences to get. Today I can get it here, right? And that was personally very refreshing for me personally, to go into parts of IBM which I don't get to interact with.
All in one shot. I know the same thing. You're walking around. Last question.
Sure.
So you've been with IBM now
15
years.
Yep.
Seeing what you've seen and Think, and you knew what a lot of this coming out was. You didn't have to come to the show to see it. You're living it. But what gets you most jazzed up in the morning now doing your job at IBM in this new Think world?
Sure. I think there are very few companies in the world which can bring all of this together, right? And the delivery capabilities with it, right? We got IBM Services, which is a very, massive part of IBM, right? So other cloud vendors, they might have a very mature cloud, but if a customer wants help in migrating to the cloud, or having their cloud applications and workloads running in the cloud be managed by somebody other than themselves, they have to bring in a third party. Right. Whereas with IBM, we bring in IBM Services.
Got it.
Right. Same way, if somebody says, I'm doing, I need somebody to help me with, my on-prem infrastructure, like we discussed before, because I am truly hybrid. I cannot cut the cord and jump to the cloud tomorrow. Even if I do want to migrate totally to the cloud, it will be a multi-year journey, and maybe it'll never be fully moved to the cloud, as we've already discussed. We can do that too. I think that part of it, right, the saying that you can, cover every aspect of it is very encouraging, right?
Yeah.
Because not too many companies can do that.
To have
And
the breadth of that.
the breadth of it, right? I mean, think of our cloud, right? We're offering everything from containers to managed SAP
Yep.
on the cloud and everything in between, right? And that is very exciting, and to be a part of that.
Great. Okay. Sanjeev Sharma here with us at IBM Think 2018. This is Alan Schimmel for DevOps.com, DevOps TV. Thanks, everyone. Have a great day.